NATO allies are promising to increase aid to Ukraine as it prepares for a tough winter, made much worse by Russia's bombing of its energy infrastructure. Meeting in Romania, NATO foreign ministers agreed to send more military equipment, as well as power generators, fuel and medical supplies.
Broken houses and damaged energy infrastructure, leaving Ukrainians in the dark and the cold. Emergency power systems are urgently needed, as well as anything that can help people survive the harsh conditions of war and the winter. NATO members say they will stand by Ukraine.
President Putin is trying to weaponize winter, to force Ukrainians to freeze or flee. He is trying to break the will of the brave Ukrainian people and to divide all of us who support them.
But Ukraine's list of needs also includes more ammunition and more weapons. Defense systems in Ukraine are currently being destroyed faster than they can be delivered. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba wants NATO to speed up the process.
Decisions on weapons, decision on launching new production lines of weapons in Western countries, they have to be made faster, and deliveries of weapons have to be done faster.
In order to strengthen Ukraine's self-defense, NATO relies primarily on defensive technologies that can ward off attacks or clear mines. NATO members in Bucharest stood unified, vowing again to support Ukraine as long as needed. The location is highly symbolic. It was here in 2008 that NATO drafted a perspective for Ukraine to possibly join someday in the future.
Our correspondent, Alexandra von Namen, is in Bucharest, and earlier we asked her what NATO members are now offering to help Ukraine.
They have made clear in their statement here in Bucharest that they are ready to ramp up this non-lethal assistance to Ukraine. So we're talking here about medical supplies, fuel, drone jammers, generators that are also important to the country. That is something that the alliance is providing. So I think it's fair to assume that it's not too difficult to agree on that. But it is up to individual allies to decide what kind of weaponry they deliver to the battlefield in Ukraine.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy says his forces face a difficult situation defending the east of the country against Russian attacks. In his overnight address, he said Russian troops are attempting to break through Ukrainian lines at multiple points on the front.
The situation at the front is difficult. Despite heavy losses, the Russians are still trying to advance in the Donetsk region, the Luhansk region and the Kharkiv region. They are also planning something in the south.
Well, some of the heaviest fighting in the east is around the town of Bakhmut. I asked Mike Martin, a former British Army officer and a senior fellow at the War Studies Department at King's College in London, for his analysis.
So the fighting around Bakhmut has been going on for a couple of months, actually, and it's reminiscent of what we had in the First World War with trench systems and mud and the opposing forces just tens of meters away from each other. What the Russians are trying to do at the moment is get around the flanks of the Ukrainian forces to encircle them in the city, which is a trick that the Ukrainians have used on the Russians quite a lot. So far, they've been unsuccessful. Both sides are taking very heavy casualties in Bakhmut, but the lines aren't moving very much.
But Bakhmut doesn't have any obvious strategic value. Russia still seems determined to take it, even at the cost of, as you say, heavy casualties. Is this just to encircle the Ukrainian forces, or are there other reasons as well?
You're absolutely right. Excuse me. You're absolutely right. In military terms, the city has no great value. It's not a railway junction, for example. But what it is it's part of the Donetsk region. And your viewers will probably remember that President Putin's war aims are to bring Donetsk and Luhansk, the Donbass region, into Russia. And Bakhmut is merely another city or another large town in that process of bringing those two oblasts into Russia. So really, this is Putin is directing this, because once he's taken Luhansk and Donetsk, then he's in a position to say, oh, look, we've won in Ukraine. Well, we can pull out of other areas.
Now, Russian strikes, as we've been reporting for weeks, on Ukraine's power grid have caused blackouts across the country. Is this also having an effect on Ukraine's ability to fight at the front?
Well, in a sort of tactical military sense, not really. Militaries tend to come with their own power generation, so they'll have, generators that they run their own equipment off. In a strategic sense, it does, because what the destruction of the power grid does is it means that Ukraine's leaders, both civilian and military, have to focus on getting critical supplies to, say, for example, hospitals or air traffic control and stuff like that. And that taking up of that time is time that they would otherwise be spending thinking about how to beat the Russians in a military sense.
Mike Martin there from the War Studies Department at King's College London. Thank you very much, Mike.
Thank you.